The hardest test of faith is not believing when everything is going right. Anyone can do that. The real power begins when life looks impossible, when the evidence says give up, and you still choose to believe that something greater is unfolding behind the scenes. Good evening, everyone. I want you to do something with me right now, not after this message ends, and not after you decide whether you agree with what I'm saying. I want you to close your eyes for a few seconds and remember a moment in your life when everything seemed to fall apart. Maybe it was a relationship that ended, a dream that disappeared, an opportunity you lost, or a door that closed when you thought it was meant to open. Hold that memory for a moment, but now look beyond the pain. Think about what came after that loss. What opportunities appeared because that door closed? Who did you become because you experienced that challenge? Where did life lead you because you could no longer remain where you were? For many people, there is a quiet realization that the thing they once considered a disaster eventually became one of the most important turning points of their life. The moment they wanted to escape was actually guiding them towards something greater. That understanding is the foundation of this teaching. But the question is, what if you didn't have to wait until years later to realize everything worked out? What if you could carry that same trust while you are still in the middle of uncertainty? Before the solution appears, before circumstances change, before you understand the reason behind what is happening? What if you could move through life with a deep inner certainty that everything is unfolding in your favor? Not blind hope, not forced positivity, and not pretending that struggles do not exist, but a powerful inner knowing that even challenges are moving you toward growth. This is not about placing a fake smile over your pain or repeating empty words while secretly feeling fear. This is about understanding the deeper structure behind reality itself, beyond what your senses show you and beyond what your current circumstances appear to prove. The principle is simple. What you consistently accept as true within yourself eventually becomes reflected in your experience. Your consciousness is always creating. Every moment, you are carrying assumptions about yourself, about life, about what is possible, and about what you deserve. Those assumptions become the seeds from which your experiences grow. The question is not whether you are creating because you are always creating. The real question is, what are you assuming to be true? For many people, the deepest assumptions they carry were not consciously chosen. They were created through years of experiences, disappointments, and setbacks. A quiet belief forms inside that says, things may not work out for me. I always have to struggle. Or, life is uncertain and uncertainty is dangerous. These beliefs become so familiar that people stop noticing them. They become the invisible environment they live within. This is why many people practice visualization, affirmations, and positive thinking, but still struggle to create change. Reality does not respond only to the desires you speak about. It responds to the deeper belief and emotional state underneath those desires. The greatest challenge comes when you face appearances. It is easy to believe when everything feels aligned, but the real test comes when you look around and nothing seems different. When the money has not arrived, when the opportunity has not appeared, when the message you are waiting for has not come, the mind immediately points to the evidence and says, look at what is happening. How can you believe things are changing? But your senses are not showing you the full truth. They are showing you the result of previous assumptions. Your current circumstances are often old information catching up with you. Just like when you look at a distant star, you are seeing light that began its journey long ago. Your present reality is often a reflection of past thoughts and beliefs. If you allow yesterday's circumstances to control today's assumptions, you continue the same cycle. Yesterday's belief creates today's experience shapes tomorrow's belief, and the pattern repeats. To change the reflection, you must first change what you are bringing to the mirror. True faith is not believing only after everything becomes clear. It is the ability to trust before the evidence arrives, knowing that the unseen creates the seen and that your inner state always comes before your outer experience. Anyone can remain positive when life is moving smoothly. Anyone can feel certain when everything around them confirms their belief. But true faith is revealed when the outside world appears to contradict what you know within. Faith is holding on to your inner certainty even when circumstances are presenting the opposite message. That is where its true power exists. That is why faith has the ability to transform what seems impossible. I once knew a man who lived with a constant feeling of worry. It was not an obvious fear that stopped him from living, but something much quieter, a constant background feeling that something bad was always about to happen. Every small inconvenience became proof that another problem was coming. Every delay became a warning sign. Every coincidence that others would ignore, he interpreted as a signal that life was turning against him. And because life reflects the dominant state we carry within, his experiences continued to match that expectation. His car would fail at the worst possible moments. His anxiety began affecting his physical well-being. His relationships mirrored the emotional distance he carried and the difficulty he had allowing himself to experience happiness. He was not unlucky. He was not being punished by life. He was simply deeply committed to the assumption that things always go wrong. Over time, he had become an expert at expecting disappointment, and the law of consciousness, which does not judge what we believe but simply reflects it, continued to show him the physical expression of that inner state. I asked him to try something for 30 days, not to deny his problems, not to pretend everything was perfect, not to force himself into unrealistic positivity. I simply asked him to introduce one new belief into his inner conversation and genuinely practice it. Everything is always working out for me, not as a desperate wish, but as an understanding of a deeper principle. If this law of assumption was true, then it had to apply to him as well. He practiced this quietly and consistently. At first, nothing outside seemed different, but something inside began to shift. The fear still appeared, but it no longer controlled him in the same way. When something went wrong, a new thought began to rise beside the old one. Maybe this is also part of everything working out. By the third week, changes started appearing, not through force, not through sudden miracles, but naturally, as life began reflecting his new inner state. An unexpected payment arrived. A difficult conversation brought exactly the clarity he needed. His health gradually began improving. At the end of the month, he told me something I will always remember. I don't know if I changed my life or if I finally learned how to see it differently. I told him those two things are actually the same. Now let me take this deeper and make it practical. Living with the assumption that everything works out for you is not about making one dramatic declaration and forgetting about it. It is built through thousands of small choices throughout your day, especially in moments no one else sees. It is the thought you choose when traffic makes you late, when plans change unexpectedly, or when something does not happen according to your timing. Most people immediately fall into the familiar pattern. Of course, this happened to me. Things always go wrong. They take that moment and place it into their mental collection of evidence proving life is difficult. They begin the rest of their day already carrying disappointment and defeat. But a different approach is possible. You can say, I may not understand the full picture yet, but I trust that this is still moving me towards something better. Not as a forced statement, but as a genuine curiosity about life. What is this redirecting me toward? What could this be protecting me from? What new possibility is this creating? This is not ignorance or denial. It is the understanding that every difficult path you have walked eventually revealed a purpose. You simply had to wait until later to see it. But what if you stopped waiting? What if you chose to believe in the meaning of the moment while you were still inside it? You have never truly been abandoned by life. Every closed door eventually led you somewhere new. Every ending created space for another beginning. Every experience you once called failure eventually became part of your growth. The question is, what would happen if you lived from that awareness now? There is an ancient teaching that says, according to your faith, be it unto you. Many people interpret this as simple encouragement to believe more, but it is much deeper than that. It is a description of how reality responds to your inner state. It reflects your assumptions, your convictions, and the state of consciousness you consistently occupy, not just the state you wish you had. It does not say it may happen someday. It does not say you will receive it only when you become worthy enough. It speaks in the present moment. According to what you truly believe within, your experience begins to reflect it. The teaching was never about simply hoping for something better. It was explaining the mechanism behind how reality responds to the state you consistently occupy. The instruction that follows is just as precise. When you pray, believe that you have already received, and then you will experience it. Notice the difference. It does not say believe that you will receive someday. It says believe that it is already done. That shift in understanding removes the distance between you and what you desire. It asks you to enter the state of already having, already being, already complete. Not as a temporary exercise, but as an identity you live from. The principle is simple. Assume you have received, Embody that assumption and allow the outer world to eventually reflect what you have accepted within. But many people ask the same question: how do I actually do this? How can I genuinely feel that everything is working out when my circumstances seem to prove the opposite? The answer begins with remembering. Think back to a moment when something went wrong, something you once believed was a disaster, but later discovered was actually necessary for your growth. Remember that realization when you thought it actually worked out. That feeling is not just an idea, it has a certain quality. You can feel it in your body, your shoulders relax, your breathing becomes calmer. The tension begins to disappear. That feeling is where you begin. Close your eyes and return to that state for a moment. Feel what it is like to recognize that life was supporting you even when you could not see it. Then expand that feeling beyond the past. Bring it into your current situation. Bring it into the uncertainty you are facing, the problem you are waiting to resolve, the outcome you cannot yet see. Say to yourself with that same inner certainty, this too is working out for me. Even if you only feel the smallest possibility that it could be true, that small spark is enough. Nurture it, return to it throughout your day. Do not force yourself to feel something artificial. Instead, ask yourself, what if this really is true? What would I feel like if I knew everything was unfolding in my favor? Let that feeling guide you into a new state of being. Over time, that small spark becomes stronger. With consistent practice, it becomes a steady inner confidence that no longer requires effort. It becomes natural, like knowing your own name or recognizing your own reflection. This state is different from ordinary positive thinking or forced optimism. It does not feel like excitement or constant happiness. It feels like peace. There is a stillness within it. A person who truly believes everything is working out does not spend every moment trying to convince themselves. They are no longer desperately searching for signs, checking for proof, or preparing for the worst-case scenario. They have released the need to control every detail. They move through life with a quiet confidence that cannot be easily disturbed. Their voice becomes calmer, their presence becomes more grounded. People can sense something different about them even if they cannot explain it. It is the energy of someone who has decided that life is not working against them, not because they have gathered enough evidence, but because they have chosen a deeper truth and returned to it again and again until it became part of who they are. Of course, there will still be difficult moments. This teaching does not promise a life without challenges. There will be times when the pain is real, the fear is strong, and circumstances appear completely opposite to what you believe. In those moments, you do not deny reality or pretend that suffering does not exist. Instead, you anchor yourself in your chosen state. You remind yourself, I may not understand this right now. I may not see where this is leading, but I have witnessed before that the moments I feared the most often carried the greatest lessons and unexpected blessings. So I choose to trust that this too is working out for me. This is not weakness, it is one of the greatest forms of inner strength. The true test is not maintaining faith when everything is easy. The true test is holding on to that assumption when everything around you appears to challenge it. Every time you do, that belief becomes stronger. It moves from something you practice into something you embody. One day, after enough moments of returning to this state, you will wake up and realize it no longer requires effort. You will simply know, everything is working out for me, not as a technique, but as a truth you live from. So return to the question we began with. Think about the experience you once believed was a tragedy, but later understood as a turning point. Now look at your present situation, the thing that feels uncertain, unfinished, or frightening. Ask yourself, what if this too is working out? What if this delay is protecting me? What if this closed door is guiding me somewhere better? What if this empty space is preparing room for something I cannot yet imagine? You do not need all the answers today. You only need the willingness to live from that possibility. Begin now. Not when everything changes. Not when you finally receive proof. Now. Walk forward as someone who has decided that life is moving with them, not against them. Trust that nothing is wasted, that every experience is shaping you, and that every step is leading somewhere meaningful. When doubt appears, do not fight it. Simply return. I drifted, but everything is still working out for me. Return to the peace. Return to the assumption. Return to the knowing. Every time you do, it becomes more natural. Every time you choose it during difficulty, it becomes more permanent. Until one day, it is no longer something you believe. It is simply who you are, the person who knows that everything works out. You are not powerless in the journey of life. You are not merely watching events unfold. The assumptions you carry within influence the reality you experience. When you deeply accept that everything is working in your favor, you are not making a desperate wish. You are choosing a state before the world has had time to reflect it back. And the world, which has always mirrored your inner state, will eventually catch up. It always does. Imagine a man named Daniel, who spent most of his life believing that life was always preparing something bad for him. He was not a negative person. He worked hard, cared deeply about the people around him, and always tried to do the right thing. But beneath everything, there was a quiet fear that followed him everywhere. Whenever something good happened, he secretly worried it would not last. Whenever life became peaceful, he expected something to go wrong. Then one day, everything he had built began to fall apart. His business failed, the relationship he believed would last forever came to an end, and the future he had carefully planned suddenly disappeared. Standing in the middle of uncertainty, Daniel felt completely lost. He looked at his life and asked the question many people ask during their hardest moments: why is this happening to me? For a long time, he believed he had lost everything. But slowly, something inside him began to change. He started to see that every ending had created space for something new. Losing his business forced him to discover abilities he had ignored for years. The relationship that ended helped him understand himself more deeply. The empty space he feared became the place where a completely different version of his life began to grow. Years later, when Daniel looked back at that painful chapter, he finally understood the truth. The moment he thought was destroying him was actually redirecting him. The closed doors were not punishments, they were guidance. The delays were not failures, they were preparation. Life was never working against him. It was shaping him, teaching him, and quietly moving him towards something he could not see at the time. Sometimes the greatest blessings do not arrive looking like blessings. Sometimes they come disguised as endings, losses, and unexpected changes. The chapter you are struggling through today may become the chapter you are most grateful for tomorrow. The important message is that an event and the meaning we give to that event are two different things. A failure may feel like a disaster when it happens, but later it may become the experience that teaches resilience. A rejection may feel like a loss, but it may lead someone toward a better opportunity. A closed door may feel like punishment, but it may prevent someone from staying in a situation that was limiting them. The phrase, "life was shaping him," means that difficult experiences can develop qualities inside a person that comfort never could. Challenges can create patience, wisdom, courage, self-awareness, and strength. Daniel could not see the purpose while he was inside the struggle, but after moving forward, he could recognize how those moments changed him. The deeper lesson is that not every painful moment is a sign that your life is going wrong. Sometimes what feels like an ending is actually a transition. Sometimes losing something creates room for something more aligned with who you are becoming. The final idea, the greatest blessings do not arrive looking like blessings, means that growth often arrives in uncomfortable forms. A blessing is not always a reward, success, or opportunity. Sometimes it appears as a challenge that forces you to change, leave an old identity behind, and become someone stronger. Sometimes the moments that feel like the biggest losses are actually guiding us toward growth. We often judge situations by how they look in the present, without understanding what they are preparing us for in the future. A closed door does not always mean rejection. A failure does not always mean defeat. An ending does not always mean something has been taken away. Sometimes life removes what is familiar because it is creating space for something better. The lesson is to stop seeing every setback as a punishment and start seeing it as a possibility for transformation. Difficult experiences can reveal strengths we never knew we had, teach us lessons we could not learn through comfort, and push us toward a version of ourselves we may never have discovered otherwise. What feels like a painful chapter today may become the reason you become stronger, wiser, and more prepared tomorrow. The situation may not have changed, but your understanding of it can, and sometimes the thing you thought was breaking you was actually building you.